Before you listen, if you enjoy the stories and want to hear more, then please consider subscribing. Most of you listening aren't subscribed, so please take this time to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story and be the first to hear. You'll also be supporting me. Thank you. I had this old computer screen sitting in my basement for a long time after getting a bigger one. I thought I would put it on Craigslist to see if anyone wanted it for a low price. The next day, some people messaged me and I decided to sell it to a man named Mark for $300 in cash. That seemed like a good deal to get it out of my house. Mark came over later that afternoon to get it. He looked like a regular guy, nothing strange about him. I carried the screen out and he looked at it, smiling, saying it would work, perfect for his home office. I was happy it would get used instead of collecting dust. Downstairs, he took 3 $100 bills from his wallet and gave them to me. I said thanks, and that was all. With the cash in my pocket, I decided to stop at the bank on my way home to put the money in since I had some bills coming up soon. I drove through to the window and the lady working opened the small window. I passed the bills to her, and she looked at them closely with her small magnifying glass. Right away, her smile went away and she pressed a button to call over her boss. They looked at the money together very closely and whispered back and forth. This did not seem good. After a minute, the boss lady turned to me with a sorry face. "I'm afraid, sir, but these bills are fake. The paper, ink, markings, all wrong. Where did you get these?" My stomach felt bad. How could they be fake? That guy Mark looked regular. I told them about the Craigslist sale and showed our message history on my phone. They wanted to know what Mark looked like, so I described him as best as I could remember. They wrote down the details to make a report, but it did not change that I was now out $300 and with unusable bills. Nothing was going right that day. On my drive home, I went over it all again in my head. Nothing seemed strange during our meeting. Maybe it was too good that he paid the full asking price right away with cash. But in our messages, he sounded normal. When he came over, his clothes, car, and talk were normal too. He looked at the screen like any buyer would. He seemed truly thankful to find what he needed for a fair price. The bills themselves even looked real at first. Only when they looked closely did the problems show. Who goes through all that trouble to pass off fake hundreds for an old computer part? It did not make sense, unless there was more behind it. Was I just an unlucky guy selling old stuff? Or did Mark have other bad plans that never came out? I could not stop the uneasy feeling coming over me. In the next days, I read everything I could find online about similar Craigslist scams and fake money operations. Some were small time, but others led back to large criminal groups. I stared at the pictures I took with Mark on my phone, trying to see past what he showed. The police said they were looking into it, but did not have many clues yet. Knowing a trickster was still out there gave me no comfort. Weeks went by with no updates from law enforcement. I worried Mark had gotten away. Clean leave me as his only victim so far. The bills themselves sat in a plastic evidence bag, reminding me of the strange meeting. One night when I was bored and restless, I took them back out again to look closely with a magnifying glass. That's when I noticed it, a very small problem with the printing on Benjamin Franklin's clothes, hardly visible, but it was enough. The next day, I spent hours carefully looking at very clear pictures online of real 100s with my magnifying glass. I compared every tiny detail until finding another bill with that exact small problem. I took screenshots and made notes, carefully putting the clues together. Then I contacted the police person working on my case, telling them excitedly but cautiously what I had discovered. Surprisingly, they asked me to come right over with what I found. It ended up that odd printing mistake connected my fake bills to unsolved cases in 3 different states. My small clue solved the whole operation. Mark and his fake money group were identified and soon caught. I was getting back lost money after all. The police person thanked me personally, saying I was very important in taking down a large criminal group. Who would have guessed my silly Craigslist meeting would turn into helping to catch dangerous liars? Sometimes strange stories really do have bigger meanings. I'm just happy some good came from the whole weird experience in the end. As a broke college kid always juggling random jobs and nonstop homework, I didn't have tons of extra money to throw around. So when my ancient smartphone finally croaked dead, last month refusing to even turn on. I planned on just getting a cheap burner phone to temporarily replace it. But my friend Clara wouldn't stop nagging that driving for Uber without decent GPS apps could literally get me killed or something. She made me swear I would at least poke around Craigslist for a kind of modern news device, so passengers wouldn't think it was sketchy. After endless texts, I finally caved and pulled up Craigslist to dig for a cheap deal, mostly just to get Clara off my back. Scrolling through page after page of laggy old Androids, all boasting cracked screens for barely less than brand new, I wasn't hopeful at all about scoring anything usable in my price range. But way down some back alley electronics listings, I eventually spotted an ad for a pretty recent iPhone model advertised as gently used and flawless for only $200. According to the post, it had belonged to the elderly seller's wife who recently passed. He was trying to downsize by getting rid of her barely touched smartphone upgraded only a year ago before she got sick. It supposedly still had active data included he would transfer over for a small monthly renewal fee. This all sounded way too good to be real, but maybe the internet gods were cutting me a much-deserved break somehow. I messaged faster than I ever had on Craigslist and instantly got a response from the widower owner sitting of a same-day handoff at a grocery store parking lot. True to his word, this tired-looking senior citizen met me a few hours later, eagerly passing the slick rose gold device into my eager hands, along with his sweet stories about his globe-trotting wife, who had gathered used it on many adventures. I'll admit I teared out, although realizing this kindness was helping him find some closure while also getting me mobile again. I spotted nothing remotely suspicious about the phone as I poked around the reset settings and everything, while the nice man showed me details. Within 30 minutes, I had the device activated on my accounts and was installing Uber as I drove off, beyond psyched at my miraculous score. I spent that whole first day dazzled by how much faster and smoother getting around everywhere suddenly seemed with GPS working perfectly. As a total direction dunce, not getting lost constantly felt nearly as good as finally having all the top apps I needed syncing up nicely. The only slight quirk I picked up on was an unusually huge stash of flashy mobile games installed from the prior owner's account. But no big deal, I just figured maybe gaming. Helped pass the hours on long-haul flights for the well-traveled woman while her husband did crosswords or whatever. Other than that odd gaming abundance, the phone checked out flawlessly in every possible way. But barely over 48 hours into our relationship bliss, the darkness crept in. Sunday mid. Afternoon, about halfway through driving yet another chatty businessman to the mall. A strange notification banner appeared minimized at the top of my map app, meaning I almost swerved into a pickup. Assuming spam, I asked the rider to clear it so we didn't crash. But as soon as he tapped, literally dozens more dropped down with loud, ominous rings startling my passenger. Freaked out over somehow causing a system meltdown, I pulled into a lot to do an emergency reboot, apologizing endlessly. But instead of stopping, the bizarre alerts kept aggressively flooding the entire screen no matter what. They weren't normal spam, but ominous personal messages like, "Where are you?" and "Why no response, Victoria?" demanding this woman make contact. Simultaneous. App alerts also bombarded my social media and email asking this Victoria person with increasing threats why she wasn't answering whoever was harassing her. Ice cold dread hit. My veins realizing maybe this phone came with dangerous strings attached to the prior owner. Dropped off my freaked out rider and messaged the seller begging reassurance just some fixable glitch was causing the frightening harassment looping without end answers. But suspicious radio silence followed. Over subsequent weeks, random texts, and notifications popped up unexpectedly anytime I dared use ride apps again asking for this ghostly Victoria. Cops proved useless for tracing origins, at most saying block it all. But soon grim silent video clips started coming to my cloud folders depicting the same pretty blonde woman from Victoria's abandoned game profiles sobbing while held hostage by shadowy figures. Even resetting the phone to factory settings didn't stop these graphic threats looping endlessly. I finally smashed the smartphone remains to powder with a hammer and pure frightened frustration, not wanting anything left over to allow some dead woman's vengeful demons further access to my world. These days, I stick strictly with the safest, dumbest flip phones and reinvested my Uber income into maced and surveillance gear. instead of tempting fate borrowing strangers' possibly haunted devices, no matter how epic an upgrade bargain they might appear on the surface. Consider me permanently cured of Craigslist gambles after glimpsing the grim fates befalling past owners unlucky enough to somehow trigger endless digital curses, dooming any moral unwise enough to later reuse their devices, like wandering cursed graveyards at the witching hour. Some enormities should never be accessed or unleashed by the living. I've been searching Craigslist for a while, looking to replace this old drawer in my bedroom that had seen better days. One of the sides had gotten loose, and now it wouldn't stay shut properly, no matter how much I tried to force it. It was really getting on my nerves having to constantly shove clothes back inside. One afternoon, flipping through ads, a listing caught my eye for a vintage solid oak drawer at a really low price, just needing a new home. Someone said it was taking up space in their basement, and they wanted it gone. I shot them a message asking for more details. They replied saying the drawer was from the 1950s and still in great structure, even with some wear and tear over the decades. They included a couple pictures showing the deep gouges and scuff marks covering the wood surface, but assured me the interior was like new and all the glides worked smoothly still. I asked if I could come check it out myself before committing. The seller agreed and gave me their address, saying any time that afternoon or evening would work. Their house was about a 30-minute drive from mine. I decided to head over after work to scope it out. Following my GPS, I started getting suspicious as the neighborhood looked increasingly run down the closer I got. Peeling paint, dead lawns, old cars up on blocks in front yards. Finally pulled up in front of a small rickshaw home with trash and junk strewn everywhere. An older beat-up pickup truck sat haphazardly in the driveway. A scraggly bearded man came out looking like he hadn't showered in weeks as I parked. He introduced himself as Bob and asked if I was there about the drawer. I nodded cautiously as he walked around to the back of the truck and started wrestling with something heavy. With a grunt, he managed to heft the old wooden piece up and carry it over. It was much bigger than I expected, easily 6 feet tall. The uneven terrain and uneven floorboards didn't help as Bob struggled under its weight. He finally dropped it down with a thud and spat a string of curse words before catching his breath. I peered inside, seeing the walls were more screwed up than the listing photos let on. Bob slid each of the 6 drawers open and shut slowly to demonstrate they still moved smoothly for their age. A thick layer of dust and grime coated everything. I rubbed my fingers along the wood grain, able to feel decades worth of nicks and stain absorbed in. There were definitely signs of heavy use over the years. Bob interrupted my inspection, asking if I was ready to haul it away or if I needed to look closer. Something about his fidgety mannerisms and the unkempt aura of the property was really setting me on edge. Still, the price was too good to pass up, and I figured a deep clean could make it usable again. I told Bob I'd take it and pulled out my wallet. He grinned in a creepy way, snatching the cash and stuffing it hastily in his pocket without counting. Great doing business with you. Let me know if you ever need any other hand-me-downs. Bob cackled before shuffling back inside his ransacked home while I tied down the drawer in my truck bed. The drive back took twice as long, dragging the clunky mass of oak wood. When I finally wheeled into my driveway, the sinking sun cast menacing shadows across the peeling finish. Maybe it was just nerves getting to me after that odd transaction, but all my adventurous DIY spirit had drained out of me. All I wanted now was to never lay eyes on the drawer again. Unfortunately, I was stuck with the burden of unloading it single-handedly. After several grueling trips up and down my narrow staircase, I maneuvered it into the empty space against my bedroom wall. Dust clouds billowed around me with each impactful thud and grunt. Collapsing onto my bed in a sweaty mess, I decided cleaning could wait until tomorrow. The next evening, after a long day at work, I begrudgingly dragged myself upstairs with cleaning supplies. The setting sun shone dully against the grain, emphasizing every crevice and cavity hiding unknown histories within. As I got to scrubbing, one of the upper drawers began sticking halfway out no matter how much I jiggled it. Giving it a firm yank, the entire side detached, entirely revealing a gaping hole. Peering inside, my heart leaped into my throat at the discovery of a false back panel. With trembling hands, I slid it slowly open half, expecting to find grime-coated bones or satanic symbols scrawled. Inside. At first it appeared disappointingly empty, save a thick layer of dust-caked floor to ceiling. But then, way in the farthest recessed corner, something caught my eye, a tiny glint of clear plastic peeking through. I pulled out a small Ziploc bag containing a pure white powdery substance, sending dust clouds swirling around me. No way was this thing used to stash drugs all these years. It felt wrong just holding the bag, like I was somehow implicated already. Panic set in as my brain raced with worst-case scenarios. Before I could think twice, I raced downstairs 4 steps at a time and flushed the bag straight down the toilet. Watching it swirl helplessly down the drain, I hoped washing away any evidence might absolve me of responsibility. But deep down I knew this was far from over. In the following weeks, paranoia took hold of me completely. Every small noise outside made me jump, fearing police sirens. Each anonymous call sent my heart plummeting into my stomach. I stopped going to work, stopped answering my phone or door, just anxiously, watching out the windows for any sign of trouble approaching. The drawer sat untouched where I left it, an ominous reminder of the chaos it unleashed. More than once I considered burning the damn thing on my backyard fire pit, hoping ashes could be buried and forgotten. But what if someone saw the flames and came to investigate? No, getting rid of potential evidence was surely the worst move I could make now. As the days dragged into over a month with no knocks on my door, I began to let my guard down slightly. Maybe flushing the bag was enough, or perhaps its contents were too minuscule to raise any red flags. Still, one thing was clear, that monstrous piece of antique furniture had to go before it destroyed my sanity altogether. As a serial apartment hopper all through my reckless early 20s, I became intensely familiar with the affordable furniture cycles of Craigslist treasure hunting. Diligent curbside scoping, garage-sale bantering, hitting the awkward landlord's basement hand-me-downs, and nomadic lifestyle necessitates fierce scoping skills when you migrate every 6 to 12 months. Chasing jobs or romantic whims across town, my sharp eye could instantly spot promising quality hideaways battered under layers of bad-paying jobs or cigarette smoke layered in. A practical DIY stain job or amateur upholstery work was child's play if structure seemed sound on closer inspection. But upon turning 30 this spring and scoring an unexpected dream corporate promotion, I decided now was finally the moment to invest in that elusive milestone of committed adulthood, my very own place unmodified by past tenants' tacky whims or flimsy landlord. Furnishing. I reveled in painting soothing accent walls and outfitting rooms with carefully curated new decor that first carefree month inhabiting personal space solely my own. By June, though, fiscal practicality pressed my pride to admit necessity of some gently handled Craigslist filler pieces, so every last cent wasn't sunk into West Elm credit payments. Saturday, I sat determined, wandering through endless Facebook Marketplace and Offera, nightmare colleges till striking proverbial gold, a presumably lightly loved full-sized couch and mattress set a mere 4 miles from my unit for only $250 total. In the ad photos, both slate gray items appeared pleasantly modern and neutral beside dated living room decor, boasting just hints of wear surely easily remedied by my legendary deep cleaning powers. I messaged without hesitating, receiving near instant confirmation from the seller of my guesstimate early 30s couple upsizing for kids. We arranged same-day pickup, allowing me to skirt potential competing interest. Upon arriving, I perused both items, curiously pleasantly surprised to find barely any instantly noticeable flaws beyond extremely minor wear nearly invisible against the darker upholstery tones. The beaming wife gushed these were practically brand new, having only been in their guest bedroom the past 2 years, hardly seeing bodies between rare visitors. Her husband heaved the collapsed couch pieces to the door, making protests about my refusal of help loading given their apparently minimal previous burden. With profuse thanks, I squeezed a flat foot into my hatchback and set off on a cloud to begin the restyling magic. I woke Sunday awash with eager anticipation to begin remodeling my incredible Craigslist finds into personalized masterpieces reflecting my refined new adulthood style. Humming, Cheerfully, I savored hot coffee as I mentally arranged perfect layouts complementing my Pinterest-worthy living room, already envisioning the sofa as the polished focal point, receiving praise from visitors. I nearly spilled crossing the threshold when I finally headed downstairs, greeted by my gray sculptural canvas awaiting creative magic. Giddily, I tore away the protective cover shrouding my discounted treasure, fully expecting to begin tackling some small mystery stain the sellers had nonchalantly referenced as the soul, company while being stored. But joy evaporated, instantly confronted by the grotesque patchwork of discolorations and imprints revealed underneath that I had somehow overlooked when initially loading my car. So, constellations of stains dotted every square. Into the futon, cleverly tucked into folds and seam features presumably to escape casual notice. Most appeared clearly bodily in nature when studied closer with available light. The origins, further confirmed as long-dried human waste, are the aggressively musty ammonia stench, singeing my nose hairs once uncovered. A gas doesn't begin describing the violated horror, cresting through me, tallying the endless shapes and silhouettes imprinted across every couch plane and angle. The sheer variety of imprint sizes and contortions painted a nauseatingly vivid mosaic, strongly suggesting the previous owners had in fact secretly housed one or more individuals long-term directly laid atop this very furniture itself. Recoiling from the close proximity, Dante's Inferno visions searing my brain, I reluctantly shifted focus, praying the second component had somehow dodged defilement. Lugging the sizable compressed mattress box upstairs through blurred tears barely registered in numb shock, but slicing the first strip of plastic released the second unthinkable betrayal pristine. White foam belying the twin horror of impressively large, irregular stains and crumbs, fossilizing the entire hidden underside. The sheer magnitude of embedded artifacts implied extended habitation by someone largely unable to move from that fixed depression. A hysterical scream tore from my raw throat, realizing the wife's overt friendliness instantly transformed into taunting deceit, hiding unthinkable secrets. Had their young toddler grown unexpectedly disabled, relegating them to endlessly motionless days and nights nested on bare mattress foundations. Images of waifish figures relegated across seasons to eternal stillness in some locked basement or forgotten attic room descended vividly, the faces shifting between strangers and my own childhood visions warped by time and terror. Frantically, I repackaged the poisonous padded betrayal to begin aggressively trying to demand return, refund, or forced disposal services from the deceitful sellers. But, unsurprisingly, the dishonest couple immediately claimed ignorance and apparently disconnected their accounts and numbers just hours after enabling my traumatic discoveries. No measures availed to truly cleanse dark, morphing imprints of unknown previous dwellers' days and nights enshrined in banal furniture frames. I ended up paying a moving service triple to safely contain and quarantine the horrors far from my sacred personal dwelling. Yet I remained permanently branded by glimpsing how deviously darkness stows, itself fold by fold ever awaiting its next eager audience. My golden future gleam of adult. Domesticity shall thus eternally house shadows in this cautionary violation. Not all second-hand gifts arrive free from haunting histories too twisted to ever fully exorcise. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.